In this video, I'll show you how to load a program from your hard disk into a running 620 PLC system. I assume that you've already watched the other video in my series, which is showing you how to get online to a 620. If you haven't, you need to watch that first, so that you're able to get online. Before we start, we'll have a quick look at the files that make up the backup of an IPC620 program. I've made a little program which I've simply called demo. When I made the program, it automatically created several files for me. As you can see here, we have 5 files, all called demo, but with a different extension. The extension has been added by the 620 WinLoader programming software itself. The most important one is the one with the extension LDR, which is the ladder, or the ladder logic program. This is your actual program that you will be loading into the PLC. Other files include the IOC, which is the I/O configuration program. The third generation 620 processors all have their processor rack I/O systems configured in software rather than in dip switches. The configuration of that I/O is held in this IOC file, so it's quite important to have. The PRC file is the processor file, and this contains information for the settings for the communications ports and programming modes on the 620. Again, if you're using a communications port for Modbus or Honeywell IPC communications, this file is quite important. The other files that we see here, ACE are address comments, LCE are line comments, and another one you may see would be LBL, which is label comments. You don't need those three files in order to load and run the PLC program, but obviously having labels and documentation attached to your PLC program makes everything much simpler when it comes to diagnosis of problems. Take your backup files and put them on your computer in a place that you know where they are. For example, I've got mine at the moment on the C drive in a folder called temp and then a subfolder called IPC. There they are. In my C, temp, IPC folder are all my backup files. It's important to know where they are because we have to tell WinLoader in a moment where to find them. Okay, if we go back to WinLoader, when we first start up, it's the proprietary Honeywell disclaimer screen. Hit enter to take you into the main menu. Previously we used F6 to set the communications cable. This time we're going to use F6 to set some more settings. When we press F6, the submenu gives us the software configuration options, of which paths and files is the first one. If we select F1, we have another menu which allows us to set the location for our backup files. If you remember, when we looked at those files a moment ago, we had ladder files and we had label files. They can be in different places or they can be in the same place. It makes much more sense to keep them in the same place. Selecting F1 brings up the highlight box to show you where the ladder is, and if you remember, I saved my ladder files in temp, IPC. I'll select F3 for the label files and I'll put the same path in there. You can also put the name of your program in if you want to. You don't have to because you can select it at the time of loading, but it's sometimes easier to do it here. So F2, the ladder file. My ladder was called demo. Yours will be called something different, I don't know what. And of course my label files, which were also called demo. So that simply sets the location and the file name for the file that we're going to be working on. Hit the escape key, F8 to save the configuration, use the default loader, hit enter to accept it and yes to overwrite the existing, hit the escape key to accept the dialog box. So we've now got the ability to go online as in our previous video, and now once we are online the system will know where our files are kept. So use the escape key to go back to the main menu and the F1 key to go online like we did in the previous video. There's our system coming back to tell us it's a 62016. Hit the enter key to accept it, change the date if you want to, and there's our existing logic that's already in the PLC. Now to load the program, we need to be in program mode. We also need to turn the key switch on the processor to the program position. At the moment you can see the key switch is in run program, so if I go to the 620 and move the key, we're now in the program position. However, the monitor, the WinLoader monitor, is still in monitor mode, even though our PLC is in program mode. To change mode, we select F11. Most keyboards don't have an F11 these days, and even the ones that do, sometimes it doesn't work correctly. To get any of the 11, 12, 13, 14 numbers on the function keys, simply use Shift and the smaller digits. For example, F11 would be Shift F1, F12 would be Shift F2. So to go into programming mode, we need to change the mode with the F11 or Shift F1 key. There we go. Now we can see we're in programming mode at the top. To load the program, we need to go into auxiliary functions. Let's use F12 or Shift F2 in this case. Shift F2, and here's our auxiliary functions. One we have is upload, download functions on F2. Number of choices. In our case, we want to load a new program from disk to the PLC, so we'll be loading from disk to 620. You can see that our path name down here has already been preloaded for us because we set it in the configuration settings. We could have used the F7 key to change the path name at this stage if we wanted to, but I find it easy to preset it, and then you only have to do it once. So we're going to load the program, F2. It's asking us to enter the file name, and again, because we entered a file name in the configuration, it's preloaded that file name in the box for us. If we wanted to use a different file name, we could easily overtype it. If we can't remember the file name, simply type dir for directory, press enter, and it will give you a list of the available file names. And there's my demo program that I made earlier. So I'll select demo and hit enter to load it into the PLC. It's warning me that I'm going to overwrite the existing PLC program. Do I want to do that? So I'll tip Y for yes, and here it goes. You'll see that the mode has now gone into SLP. It's a very small program, so it loaded very quickly. You can see it's only 2 lines, and it's given me a summary from the box associated with the program that I've just loaded. And of course I've made a simple program up called How to Load an IPC Program, and here's the confirmation. I have the ability to change the date to make it today's date if I want to, but I don't have to. Press enter, asks me if I want to load the files associated with the program which contain the documentation, the labels and comment files. Defaults to yes, so I hit enter again. They're going to load. Now you see that my line comments and my address comments have loaded okay, but the labels, it says bad loads. This is simply because the label file is missing. If you remember when we looked at the files earlier on, we only had 5. The label file LBL was missing from my demo set. I purposely left that out so I could show you what the bad load meant. It won't stop the PLC running, it's purely the documentation comments. Hit enter again, and now the PLC program is loaded. If we hit escape a couple of times, it'll take us back up to the top menu where we'll be able to see the program. And there's my very simple demonstration program that I put in. The machine is still in program mode because the key switch is in program. I could now put it into run mode, but before I do, we'll look at loading the processor configuration and the I/O configuration. Hit the escape key and exit from the online mode. Carry on hitting the escape key till you get to the top menu, the main menu, and then F1 back into the online mode. The very first online screen where we get the confirmation of type of the PLC also has the edit processor configuration and edit I/O configuration selections. So we'll select F5 to edit the processor configuration, And then because we have it on a backup disk, a file that we looked at earlier, we will load the processor configuration using F9. Again, the path name has been preloaded for us because we set it up in the configuration. So we simply hit enter. The file name has been preloaded. Again, we can change it, but this is the one we want. I'll hit enter, and there we are. It's loaded the program. One important thing here, it says press enter to keep the changes. So although it's loaded the program, they're not permanent until I actually press enter. And there they are. We go back to the main menu automatically, and now I can edit the I/O configuration using F6. It comes up with the existing I/O configuration of the connected PLC, but you can load your backup one from here as well. So F9 is load, path name, enter to accept it, enter to accept the file name, and there we are. We've loaded the backup processor configuration. Once again, we need to press enter to install the configuration. It's only loaded, it's not permanent. Press enter, everything is made permanent. So there we have it. Now we've loaded the PLC program, we've loaded the I/O configuration, and we've loaded the processor configuration. It says press enter to continue, so that's what I'll do. And I'll press enter again to accept the date. And there's our program once more. Now we need to switch the PLC back into run mode to finish the job. So the key is in program at the moment. I'll just turn the key. There we go. Back into run mode. Now we can see that the program is now live. We have a status bar down the bottom that tells us that we're in run. The key switch is in run program, and the ladder itself has now become animated. 0, for example, is shown in red here to show that 0 is currently on. If I go to my PLC system, I've got a few switches that I can test these things with. If I turn 0 off and on, you can see it being activated there. If I turn 1, 0, you can see the logic activating and everything is running and is correct. We can now escape from this, exit the system, keep pressing the escape key till we get to the top end, whereupon we press F10 to exit WinLoader, and the job is finished. Thank you for watching.